Hola, buenas tardes. Good afternoon. Good evening. My name is Abelardo de la Peña
Hola,
Jr.
buenas tardes.
Ah, wait here.
Good afternoon. Good evening.
There you go. Just repeating myself because it's such a wonderful day today. Welcome to En Casa con la Plaza. My name is Abelardo de la Peña Jr. I'm the Director of Marketing and Communications with La Plaza de Cultura y Artes. En Casa con la Plaza is La Plaza's virtual programming. This is our second year. No, we're entering our third year. We had our 2-year anniversary back on April 27th, just last week. And we recapped a lot of what we've done over the past couple years. These are presentations, demonstrations, conversations, and performances. And today we're going to have a great conversation and presentation, finding out what the heck is Web3. But before we get started, let me just give you an update of what's going on at La Plaza de Cultura y Artes, located at 501 North Main Street in downtown LA, right across the street from Olvera Street. Let's see, we're open Wednesday through Sunday, noon to 5 p.m. Our La Tienda gift store is also open. All of our exhibitions are open. LA starts here, Calle Principal. It's the last few weeks for Patriotism and Conflict, which is centered around the Chicano moratorium. You got to check it out. Photographs, memorabilia, letters, video, music, text. You'll learn a lot. You'll really enjoy it. You'll get some great insights about what happened 51 years ago. Also, LA Memo, Chicana Art from 1972 to 1989. It's gotten a little bit of press. We just were on Telemundo just last week in their Noticiero 52. Our museum and teaching kitchen called La Plaza Cocina, which just opened a couple months ago. It's closed right now for a couple weeks, just as we prepare for a brand new exhibition, Abuelita's Kitchen, Mexican Food Stories. It opens on Sunday, May 22nd, on a Sunday from 12 to 5. This is going to be an incredible exhibition, talking to 10 abuelas located here in LA, talking about their food journeys, their traditions, their recetas, incredible photographs, audiovisual, a big video. It's going to be great. So we'll talk about that later. But for now, I'm just going to thank our sponsors, Union Pacific Foundation and Institute of Museum and Library Services. Thank you so much for your support for En Casa con la Plaza. So a little intro. Have you heard of Web3? Are you wondering what the heck's an NFT? Are you confused about blockchain? In this session of En Casa con la Plaza, you're going to learn about these new iterations of the World Wide Web based on blockchain technology. With us tonight are two experts in the field. Santos de Los Angeles, he's a Chicano recording artist and producer for Player Saint Records and the co-founder of Chicano DAO, which we're going to learn about in this session. Through Chicano DAO, Santos is currently working to help brown artists, musicians, and entrepreneurs learn to take advantage of the opportunities being offered by Web3, which leverages tools such as NFTs in order to control their intellectual property. Santos has been around music for quite a while, since '98. With the Chicano cumbia reggae group Yerba Tribe. He's recorded with under his own label. He starred in La Muerte Viva rock opera. He's contributed to his music to important films like the Cesar Chavez documentary Viva la Causa. So he's going to be coming on a little bit. Let me introduce also Steven Venegas. He's a creative based out of Southeast LA who has a strong passion for bridging arts, community, and technology. He is also a co-founder of Chicano DAO, which is a decentralized autonomous organization. And we'll learn more about DAOs in a little while. So with that, please come on up and zoom in, Santos and Steven.
Hello, hello, hello. Saludos a mi gente, wherever you are out there in LA or in the world, both sides of the border. Saludos a todos, amor y paz.
Yo,
Thank you, Santos.
Thank you for the warm welcome, Abelardo. Appreciate it.
All right. Well, thank you. It's our pleasure. We've heard, as I'm sure all of us have heard a lot relatively recently about NFTs, about blockchain, most specifically about Web3. What is, and so I'm going to be asking questions because I want to know for myself as a communicator, as a little bit of an artist myself. Tell us, what is Web3 as opposed to Web 1 and Web 2?
I think, well, this could be answered in a couple different ways. So, Steven, if you can answer it the technical way, and then I'll answer it maybe the cultural way. I think maybe we could start there.
Mm-hmm. All right. So, yeah, just to, how about we start with the cultural way? Because I think it might be a little easier to
Okay,
relate before we get into the
that's
nitty
cool.
gritty. But
Absolutely. So Web3, and honestly, I never even heard of Web 1 or Web 2 until the conversation about Web3 started to be. And full disclosure, I am not an expert. I'm not a financial expert. I'm a student in this. I think Stephen is very much a student. He knows a lot more than me, so I always confer to him. But he's a student as well. We're learning a lot in this space, just like you, Abelardo. And just wanted to throw that out there.
It'll be a little
And
easier
none
to
of
relate before we get into
yeah,
the
that's
nitty
cool.
gritty. But
Yeah, and I also want to make clear that none of this is financial advice. Although you'll hear a lot about the maybe perhaps some of the investments and the things that we're excited about, but I don't want, do your own research is what we always tell everyone. Okay, so let's talk about what these things are: Web 1, Web 2, Web 3, and why they're differentiated. Where we are right now, and what Web 3 is about, is this cultural movement, is this new excitement that's being created between the internet of the metaverse, right? This virtual reality world that's being promised to everybody, and that's slowly being delivered because of technological differences, that innovations like 5G and faster internet speeds, and everybody having a cell phone, even in remote villages in the sierras of Mexico. Uh, so it's just opened this possibility, and it's all linked up to blockchain technology, meaning like Bitcoin technology and crypto technology. So with that comes a big old realm of possibilities. And you might hear my cat in the background. He likes to talk about Web3 also. So if you hear a meow, he's just giving his 2 cents. And so that's what Web3 is. And I'm kind of going backwards because the reason that it's differentiated between Web 2 was about Facebook and about YouTube and about social media, and everybody kind of becoming their own brand and their own reality show, right? And it gave everyone a platform to kind of show off their pictures and videos. Whereas Web 1 was just the beginning of the internet, when folks were just handing out their email. They were just basically communicating with emails. That was Web 1. It was people were kind of adopting it. Nobody was super excited about it. You would go on the internet by sitting down in front of a computer. Web 2 changed that, where now the internet was in your hands, it was in your pockets, it was in your car. No matter where you were connected. For God's sake, there's internet in space, right? People are connecting through like literally in space, like they're connecting back to us through Zoom on space missions and things of that nature. So Web 3 is a little bit more profound in terms of the technology that's happening, but also the ownership of what's happening, the way that you as an artist are going to be able to connect to your fan base or people who support you. It's going to be based on you. It cuts out the middleman, basically. And that's a really, really big thing, because we've been trying to cut out the middleman. I know I've been trying to cut out the middleman by being an independent recording artist, but it's always like a uphill battle, right? Because you're trying to cut out the middleman, but everybody else has the middleman. The middleman, what are we referring to? Record labels. We're talking about companies that control media and that sort of thing. And so Web3 promises you to be able to connect with the people that are interested in what you have to say as an artist, as a journalist, but without you needing to pay for somebody for that access, if that makes sense. And we'll get into how that even is possible. But it's very, very new. And it's like, it's basically so ground floor is less than 1% adoption right now in the world, which means what? Anybody who gets involved right now in 2022 is, you're going to have a tremendous advantage. So yes, some people are making a ton of money in Web3, but that's not what it's about. It's about you kind of putting yourself really, really early on and positioning yourself for the next 10 to 15 years, is the way I see it from a cultural standpoint.
All right. Stephen, talk to us about the technology behind Web3.
So yeah, like Santos said, there has been pretty much this like over time there's been a shift between the way we've used the internet. You know, back with the original web one, right? Or just the internet, as a lot of us just know it. We just had static web pages. They all kind of worked like you know, like yellow pages, or one of like almost like an online dictionary. A lot of the way of contacting people was through email, right? You had hotmails, AOLs, and things like that. And then you moved into web 2, which ended up being very dynamic, kind of like Santos had mentioned, except one of the primary differences between where web 2 was and where web 3 is moving is that with web 2, you know, like you mentioned, ownership is actually in the controls of the centralized companies. So we see this time and time again with, you know, platforms like YouTube, platforms like Facebook, where you have the ability to build your brand, build your presence. However, it is primarily monetized by the corporate entities themselves. And even though, you know, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're big evil giants, right? I think that's kind of some of the conversation tends to point in that direction. But I do think that it's not so much this negative thing, because they do provide a lot of opportunities. It's just a restructuring of the way we perceive how content should be made, right? These people who create content, whether you're an artist, a painter, you make entertaining videos, you're a comedian, right, a musician, whatever it is you do, you bring value to the space. And you know, big giants like YouTube generate a ton of revenue, but it's common that we see a lot of these creators, you know, struggling to get by. So what blockchain technology allows you to do is it allows you to create or curate your own content, and mark that as an original. And since it is marked as an original, you allow a base to now invest in you and the things that you do, but it works directly through you. There's no intermediary, which can be a negative thing, but has a lot more financial, and there's a much higher financial upside, and then you also get some reputation along with it.
Could you give us like an example of what blockchain, kind of visualize it for me, of how it works?
Mm-hmm. So the way blockchain works is essentially we interact with the computer, right? With an ecosystem, if you must. So let's say we were working with Bitcoin, right? Something that is extremely known and becoming a little bit more adopted, or Ethereum. And what we would do is on our end, we would interact with this system, and that system would write a smart contract, which essentially says, hey, this is a trustless contract that two parties can agree upon. And when that negotiation is completed, the computer itself, which is Ethereum or Bitcoin, will then validate it, and then the transaction goes through. So what that allows us to do is it kind of works like a bank account, except rather than the bank having to approve this, it is done without any middleman, and you can guarantee the safety from both parties, right? I can interact with Santos, and he can interact with me without me even really knowing who Santos is. All I would really need is his address in whatever token we're working in.
Now, as far as Bitcoin is concerned, is it backed up by real money? Is it like like say when you go to Vegas, you buy
Mhm.
chips, $100 worth of chips, and then that's the currency. Does it work like that?
I think it does. It's definitely backed up by real money, but it's backed up by real money that's not in one bank. That's the difference. Is the people that have bought the Bitcoin are what's backing the Bitcoin. Your wallet is essentially a bank without any bank teller, without any fees. There's no no minimums, and the fact that you have Bitcoin, you exchange it at one point for dollars.
Mm.
So it has the value of the dollars you exchange for it. And so today, I don't know what the number is, Stephen, like the number of wallets that are holding Bitcoin today, but we're talking about a network that is containing not just dollars, it's containing pesos, it's containing uh, the Chinese yen, it's containing is it the yuan? Sorry, it's containing every national currency now. So it's by definition, it's like, okay, we want the dollar to back it up, and there's certainly a lot of dollars in there, but there's every other currency. So it actually makes it more stable, because if you, when you spread out that risk around people, those all those bitcoins that were created were initially exchanged from their individual currencies. I heard somebody speak about this. I think it was Michael Saylor yesterday. He's somebody I recommend in terms of his understanding of what Bitcoin is. He's like, you know, if you go, everyone is really bullish on the dollar, but if you go to Europe, they won't accept the dollar. You can't use your dollar to buy a cup of coffee in Europe. You have to exchange it for euros. Okay. If you go to Russia, they're not going to accept your dollar. If you know, there's a lot of countries that will accept your dollar, of course, so the dollar is very strong. But only in all these countries can you exchange Bitcoin for whatever their currency is. And little by little, it's becoming more spread out to the point where people will be able to trade these things for actual dollars, or for
Yeah,
whatever or for products.
sure. Is the Bitcoin, because I've heard like about the valuation of Bitcoin goes up and down. So say if you buy $100 worth of Bitcoin, you know, I'm not sure if that's a terminology, but
It is.
yeah, can it increase in value? The $100, similar to like if you buy a share of you know, of stock, you know,
Mhm.
it could go up in valuation, it goes down in valuation.
A-
Is Bitcoin similar to that?
Absolutely. So a good way to think about this, right, is if we just take the US dollar, right? We're all familiar with it, is the US dollar is inflationary. And the reason the US dollar is inflationary is because we can print money. You know, we do this for a lot of like fiscal stimulus, and some of it's bad, some of it's good. There's a lot of arguments to be made. But that aside, that is the primary reason why the value of our dollar goes down yearly by about 5%, right? And so similarly, or I guess you could say almost actually like on the contrary, right? When you have Bitcoin, Bitcoin is deflationary. The reason is because there are a finite amount of Bitcoin available. So as more or less money goes into the system, which is all Bitcoin together, right? The entire ecosystem, since there's a fixed rate, those who buy a larger portion in the beginning, right? So at one point, you know, Bitcoin, you could get it for $10, you could get it for $20, right? Um, but you were buying a full Bitcoin. Now a Bitcoin goes upwards of 35,000. I haven't checked it in a while, but it goes upwards of 35,000. And the reason is because there is far more money in the ecosystem, but there are the same amount of Bitcoin. And the Bitcoin are being mined, right? So they're still essentially printing Bitcoin.
Mhm.
But the thing is that there's a calculatable number that we can say, hey, once we've reached this amount of Bitcoin, there's no more.
Wow.
We will never make
Today,
any more.
okay, he brought up something really important, which for me always grabbed my attention about Bitcoin, even though I ignored it for most of its existence. Okay, and to my own regret, okay, I ignored Bitcoin when it was $1, and that's when I first heard about it. Today, it is trading. One Bitcoin costs $39,690. One single Bitcoin, and it has been going up and it has been going down. But about 2 years ago, it was trading for $2,000 a Bitcoin. So a massive amount of growth happened with Bitcoin within the last 2 years. Why? The main reason I would argue, and you could tell me if I'm missing something there, Stephen, is because about about 2.5 years ago, they actually regulated within Congress, so they actually were able to define it as property and to be able to start taxing it. The other reason is you actually within the last 2 years had what we call institutional investment, which is a huge thing that people need to understand. People were scared of Bitcoin about 5 years ago, and they would stay away from it. They say you're going to lose your money. But about 2.5 years ago, institutional investment started. What does that mean? That huge companies, respected companies, started putting it into their portfolio.
Mhm.
What does that mean for everybody? It means that the value starts stabilizing it, and they know something that you and I don't, and they're not going to invest in something that is going to tank, because they're playing with people's money, right? If they do that, because and we're not talking about them investing a huge percentage of their portfolio, just to be, upfront. I think most of them their risk is about 1%. If I'm correct about this, Stephen, it's usually what I hear is the dominance. Like their risk, they say 1% of their holdings they put into Bitcoin. We're talking about Tesla put into Bitcoin, some major banks like I can't remember the ones right now, but that's what actually started driving the price of Bitcoin up to the point of where it is right now, where some people might argue it basically reached a new floor where it will go up and go down, but the new floor is way higher than the 2000 level. When the supposed Bitcoin crash happened last year, it didn't go below 20,000, right, Stephen? If you remember that number, that means that at some point somebody said no, it's not going below this amount. That means people are holding it now. They're not playing around. There's people that go in there and they try to see if they can make money, but Bitcoin is not really the tool that you're going to use if you want to play casino anymore. It's way more stable today.
Now, can people still purchase Bitcoin, and if so, where?
Mhm. Yeah, so you can still purchase Bitcoin. You can actually buy any amount of Bitcoin, which is amazing. You know, you can buy $100. You don't need 30, what was it at? 39,000.
39,
So you
yeah.
don't need $39,000 and say, hey, I really want a Bitcoin. Let me go put $39,000 into this thing. You don't have to do this. It's fractional, which means that you can own any amount of it. You will just have a fraction of one Bitcoin, right? So you might have 0.01 Bitcoin, you might have 0.5 Bitcoin, but you're just buying a percentage of it. And you can actually buy this on centralized exchanges. I would say is the easiest way to go about it. All those centralized exchanges is, there's a lot of conversation about decentralization in crypto, but a centralized exchange is essentially usually it's a public company. They may be traded or not, depends on what company it is, but they have created essentially a brokerage and they allow you to buy crypto for dollars.
And
um
is there one or two that you could
yeah,
name, not as
yeah,
specifically to recommend, but at least to
yeah,
name
Well,
yeah.
people who are interested?
absolutely. I think the most popular one is Coinbase.
Mhm.
Coinbase is the most popular. Would you agree, Stephen?
Yeah,
It's
so
and it's
so
and it's the most regulated too, which kind of means maybe for somebody that's a little nervous about investing in Bitcoin, they're regulated and they actually went public last year, meaning that they're traded on the stock market now. It's the first ever exchange to be traded on the stock market. So you can go on there, set up your bank account, uh, you can actually buy Bitcoin probably within about 1 hour. I want to say you set up you link it to your email, you link up your bank account, you could put in $10 in there and buy $10 worth of Bitcoin, within 1 hour now.
Wow.
mhm.
And we're not getting and we don't get paid by Coinbase or anything
No,
like that.
no. And,
Yeah,
and,
It's
and
just
I've
one of the
posted
first
it
ones
on
that pops up.
on the chat. I've posted it on the comment section. So again, it's not a recommendation. It's just
Absolutely.
information, just
yeah,
a starting point for those that are interested in Bitcoin.
How do you buy
absolutely.
Bitcoin, Stephen? What do you when if you buy
I
Bitcoin?
actually use Coinbase too. There's a lot of different ways you can do it. Crypto.com's another popular one. The crypto.com arena out here was just purchased,
Absolutely.
or at least the branding, right? I don't know how the back end went, but it's now the crypto.com arena. Very, very reputable. These are normal companies that we're used to. So it's not, this a lot of people are kind of surprised because they feel like crypto is like this magic internet money, right? There's no backing. There's like, we don't know who's behind it, right? I don't know who I'm sending my money to, right? I hear that. I feel like that's a pretty common thing to hear when I
I
talk
think you
about
can
this.
buy
Like,
it with Venmo now too, right? Or
yeah, yeah.
you can actually buy
Um,
it with Venmo. Like you could buy it and send it to somebody right with a Venmo app. So
mhm.
it's gotten a
but
lot easier.
but I would suggest if you do plan on buying any form of crypto to make sure you do it through an exchange like Coinbase or crypto.com, because there's a big thing in crypto where we want to retain ownership of these things. And when you buy it through something like Cash App or Venmo, you don't have access to these things called private keys, which is that's I feel like that's a little more advanced. That's for another conversation. But you're not getting ownership yourself. Essentially what's happening is you're buying
Same
it.
thing with Robinhood, right? Same thing with
Yeah,
Robinhood.
it's like
You
Robin
actually
Hood, right?
don't. you don't own the Bitcoin or the Dogecoin or any other kind of coin with them.
Yeah, so what's happening there is essentially you're buying a portion through them. They will own it for you. It's a custodial wallet is what
Okay.
it's called. So they essentially hold the coins for you and you buy it, and when you exit, they pay you out. um and essentially that's a method of doing it. I would suggest not to do that, just because in the spirit of decentralization and reclaiming ownership, which is something we're big about pushing, you want to make sure you have it in your own wallet. And the only downside that I will be completely transparent with is you don't work through a bank, right? Once it's in your Coinbase wallet, you can ask Coinbase. You can say, "Hey, Coinbase, I lost my password to Coinbase," right? And they're gonna help you out, right? You send your email and some verification stuff. They'll help you out. However, for the rest of crypto, as you keep diving in, you know that you're your own bank. So if you lose your passwords, you've lost them. They're gone. If you had $1 million and you lost your stuff, they're gone, right? But similarly, is there's ways of keeping this information safe, right? They give you a 12-word phrase. You write it 3 4 times. You give it to your closest family. You could put it in your bank vault, right? Like if you have a box at the bank, you can keep it in a safe, and then you're fine. You don't actually have to worry too much. But
And then
you
another
know
thing that somebody did ask me before, and I didn't realize that it was not common knowledge, is it doesn't cost you anything to set up a crypto wallet, like $0. So you could set up a crypto wallet right now, not put any money in it, but you could have one without paying any fees. And it doesn't cost you any money to keep the money, the crypto in there, whether it's Bitcoin or any other type of coin. And there's a ton of coins, and that could be one whole one whole interview, because there really is a ton of different cryptos, and some of them serve certain purposes and some are just for, like Bitcoin, which is, it's Bitcoin is like a piggy bank. It's like a way that you would save money, I want to say.
mhm.
um it's not somewhere where you want to be like using it and buying things with it. For That's just my standpoint. It's kind of like, they call it digital gold. You're going to hear this in Web3. Digital gold means that the reason that you would have gold in your safe is because you're afraid that the dollar might lose value. So Bitcoin, because it's such a strong protocol, meaning they're everything from, it's unhackable.
Mhm.
Okay. And I could be proven wrong, sometime in the future, but it's just never been hacked. It's a system that is virtually unhackable. So that's what gives it its real value. People know that if they trade $1 million for Bitcoin and they keep that wallet off the internet, there's no way you're going to be able to get into that wallet unless you break into their house, point a gun at them and say, give me your keys to this wallet. Tell us what your 16-word password is." Like, but there's no other way, like, that somebody can get into it. So that's
Mhm.
what really gives it its value.
All right. Well, let's step away from uh technological aspects of it and starting with you, Santos, how did you get into this Web3 yourself? You come from a musical background, also a community activist background. How did you start getting involved with this?
I think it was by accident almost. I was not, I didn't pay attention to Bitcoin for years, as I mentioned earlier. About a year ago, I started hearing about this thing that happened with GameStop, where the like a million people on the internet basically started manipulating the stock market and causing the price of the GameStop stock to go up ridiculously. And I was like, and it really intrigued me. And when I went into that, I to start paying attention to what they were doing, they started mentioning a cryptocurrency called Dogecoin, which I don't recommend to anyone to purchase. But I don't, not to not to say it's terrible, but um, it's just not as stable as Bitcoin or other things. And so when I heard about Dogecoin, I said, well, these people, I was really fascinated by the fact that they could all gather together, create a hashtag and say Dogecoin to the moon. And then it was like a little hidden message, but out in the open to everyone to go and buy this same stock or this same cryptocurrency and drive the price up. And so then it made me go, well, I need to pay attention to what they're doing. And I'm going to put $100 into it if I hear if I hear something kind of moving, and just to play around, why not? I'll throw away $100 in the spirit of just gambling my money in that moment. And I'm not really a gambler, but I was just like, I was kind of a little fascinated with what was going on there. I put some money in Dogecoin and I actually doubled it, tripled it. And then I was like, whoa, okay, well, what the heck did I just buy? I didn't know what I bought. Exactly. So, but after I bought it, I realized, oh yeah, this stuff is, it's not really that good compared to Bitcoin and compared to a bunch of other things. But what that allowed me to do is it educated me on crypto, and I started going into a feedback loop. You know, if you go on YouTube right now and you search up, I don't know, ancient Aztec art, and you watch 2 or 3 videos, all of a sudden you go back on YouTube and it's going to
Oh,
be all ancient Aztec art and Mayan art and all this other stuff.
sure.
So what happened with me is I created a feedback loop where everything that I was watching was cryptocurrencies, and so I went on an educational just marathon to learn as much as I could. And my wife also got involved, and we started watching these videos, and we're like, wow, I can't believe we ignored this for so long. That taught me about crypto in general. And then I learned about NFTs, and that became really fascinating, especially as a creator of art. I was like, wait a minute, what is this technology? And I can essentially create a new way to protect my copyright. That was the only interest that I had, is like, wow, I can protect my copyright in a way where I can pass it on to my kids, and I could potentially sell it. I wasn't thinking about selling it because the majority of my fan base does not understand the technology yet. You know, with all respect to my fan base, I just haven't seen it. I haven't seen the conversation rise yet. So I said, well, it doesn't matter. I can start turning my content into NFTs, and I guess the question would be, what is an NFT in a
Yeah.
moment?
Okay. Before we get into that, Stephen, how did you become involved? I know you have a community space in Compton called Peace of Mind, which holds live music events, educational workshops. You feed families. So how did you get involved with crypto, with blockchain, with it, and so on? Unmute, please.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Like most people, like just like Santos, it kind of just happens, right? You kind of fall down the rabbit hole. When I was about like 15, 16, I was really interested in it. Didn't have much money, right? I was still young. Started learning about Bitcoin. I thought it was this really crazy. I like all the stuff that's like associated with hacking and techie stuff. I was excited. Didn't put money in, but to put that in perspective, if I would have put money in 2011, 2012, $15 at that time would now be worth over, 6 figures, right? And so even when I first got into crypto in general, really was 2017. That was like my first shot to understand what was going on, right? So 2012, fast forward to 2017, now I'm in college. I was really excited, same energy. I loved what was happening, getting excited about people talking about being able to own things, and keep them, everybody retaining ownership. So, I started putting in some of my money. I remember I had went to my mom. I was like, Mom, do you have like a grand, like something we can put in? I think it's gonna do well. At that time, Bitcoin was already up to about $15,000, right? So I was like, look, if we would have put it in, back then, we'd still also be at 6 figures, right? So we would have already had quite a lot of money. So I was like, I don't want to miss the boat this time. We end up putting money in, and then what happened in 2017 is everything crashed. So a lot of people had put money into Bitcoin and kind of created a bubble, and a bunch of people took their money out, right? People were over investing, and they get scared and they liquidate. And even though that happened, I stayed involved in the space, right? Financially, I got wrecked with everyone else, but emotionally, nothing had changed, right? Because the space was moving so much faster than it was in 2012. So I was still excited. So I ended up going down that route. Now with NFTs being popular, there's kind of like a trend, right? We can say it's a trend where we discovered a new way to use this technology. It's become popular. So Now we're looking for ways to essentially enable artists and creatives and people who create any form of content to like do that themselves. So as a recording engineer, I also do recording engineering, and we're always looking for ways to put money back in the pockets of artists and people creating. And NFTs have just been a vessel for doing this among a lot of other ones, right?
All right. Well, let's talk about that. And what are NFTs, and how could they uh, help out artists? What is the ability of NFTs to be able to, for a creator to put their work out there and for other people to support it?
Mhm. So
Well,
NFT,
yeah,
I'll go
no,
for
no,
it,
please,
Santos.
no. Well,
Jump in.
yeah, what it is okay. So you take the secure technology of Bitcoin, as I mentioned, the unhackable technology of Bitcoin, and now you connect it to a piece of art or intellectual property, and that's what an NFT is. It's the ability to say, hey, I own this and it's unhackable now, right? And I can pass it on to, say, Abelardo, and now he owns it, and it exists in a directly from me to you. It doesn't exist with a copyright office. It doesn't exist anywhere but between me and you. And what it does for me is say, if you buy my art, Abelardo, and you resell it to somebody else, I will continue to get a royalty for that art, 10%, 15%, whatever the contract says.
Mhm.
And if that person resells it, I'll get a royalty. I won't have to go chase that person down. I won't need ASCAP to try and find my royalties for me. I won't need Spotify to give me 1 penny for a 100,000 views or anything ridiculous like that. Um, it's all direct from one person to the other. And so what an NFT does is it revolutionizes the way that we can sell our property, not just intellectual property, mind you. You can sell any property, but it was a game changer for intellectual property. So music is very low on the totem pole right now. It's not really super popular in among NFTs, to be 100% honest, but visual art is getting the most attention because for the first time ever, you're actually able to sell digital art online. Never happened before. We could sell this whole Zoom conversation right now and turn it into an NFT and sell it to the viewers, and the viewers can purchase it. And by doing so, they can support La Plaza de la Cultura y Arte. We could turn this into an NFT, and then they can buy it, and if it becomes a collectible in the future for some reason and it resells, you'll continue to be paid for that. It's a yeah,
So and how would I've no art, I've seen some examples of digital art that have been, that are NFTs, that have gotten millions of dollars. And NFTs, for those out there, they're non, is it pronounced fungible or fungible? Fungible token?
fungible,
Yeah,
Fungible.
fungible.
Yeah.
non-fungible tokens. So they're growing increasingly popular as investors, look into getting involved. So there's been. I'm just looking and I'll share screen here as I go through this website. Let me get rid of this ad first. Let's see if I could do that.
Absolutely. Let's look at it.
Yeah. Okay. So this one, Nifty Gateway, does something called crossword. The number
Yep.
one from Beeple's first NG drop. What's NG? I don't know.
Where I'm trying to see. I'm trying to see where you're reading.
Okay, I'm right here. Here goes. So this is I guess this is an NFT, or this is
This is an
Yeah.
NFT. Yeah,
Yep.
okay.
That there.
So but
Engine.
but we can see it,
absolutely.
but somebody
So
else,
yes,
but somebody else,
that was a very interesting piece of artwork that he made, and he wound up people actually okay. So up
yeah,
until about 2 years ago, he wasn't selling more than he wasn't getting more than $100 for a print of art, you know.
yeah,
But today he's making millions upon millions. He sold this one, you said, for $6.6 million.
something like that. Here, let me run it again. And it's gotten 634K views. So people could see it, but only one person owns it.
Absolutely. Yep, that's exactly what that is. And so everybody can see it, and anybody, for instance, how they always say, you know, you could take a picture of the Mona Lisa, but you can't resell that picture, right? So you can copy and paste any picture that you see, that you could get that, but there's something about the actual ownership and the ability to be able to actually resell it. And some of these NFTs come with commercial rights. If you notice, these NFTs, these are NFTs, right, in my background.
Yeah.
These two things right here, right? They're NFTs, and it's actually an NFT that Steven purchased from a Mexican artist named Human Being. And so Steven buys this NFT from him, right? It's hand drawn and then digitally turned into a digital image. Now Steven can actually, he not only owns the artwork, he can actually put it on t-shirts, because this NFT came with commercial rights. So he could put it on a t-shirt, he can put it on a mug, he can do all sorts of things with it now. And he can resell it as well. And if he resells it, the original artist will continue to get paid for that piece of art, which is the most important thing from my standpoint. And there won't be any middleman in between taking care of that. It'll go directly into his wallet.
Have either one of you created NFTs?
I have created NFTs because I wanted to know how difficult it was to go through the process. I'm not in the process of selling NFTs because there's a whole process, and we can get into that in a moment. But it's very, very easy, and you can create an NFT really in the matter of like a few minutes,
Right.
once you know what you want.
And where's the best way to, the best place? Do you need specific software? Do you need to connect with a service or a website?
There's a couple ways. Steven will tell you as well, and I'm sorry, there's so much to it. Okay, so you can create it through a web platform, or you can create it with your own smart contract, right? Like a custom contract that you sell directly from your own website. That is a little bit more complicated, and it requires a lot more understanding and probably a developer. But the way that I created it, I went on OpenSea, which is the biggest marketplace right now for selling NFTs, OpenSea.io, I think, or OpenSea. You can find them OpenSea. It's like,
Okay.
okay. So, and if you go on OpenSea, you can create an NFT as long as you have the JPEG already ready. And the difference is, what's going to happen is that yep, that's it. The only confusing thing is you're going to have to decide, do I want to make one NFT of this image, or do I want to make 10 NFT images? Or, you got to kind of, that's actually, that's an interesting collection that you pulled up there, because that's one of the biggest collections, and we could talk about what that is. But it's super easy. You basically go on OpenSea, you click the create button, and then before you know it, well, yeah, you'll have to create a wallet. That wallet is where the NFT will be created from, because that's your wallet, and it proves that Abelardo created this NFT, so that when it sells, whoever buys it, that money goes directly into your wallet.
All right. Now,
So
there's a lot to learn about this. We have limited time. Now let's talk about you're both co-founders of Chicano DAO. Now, please explain what a DAO is, and specifically what this DAO is about.
yeah, so a DAO, we also call them DAOs. They're essentially decentralized autonomous organizations, and they serve pretty much the same purpose any company would serve, right? They're now recognized as legal entities. And essentially the way they operate that's fundamentally different from a traditional company is a DAO allows forms of voting to choose how the company runs itself. So, in a typical company, right? Let's say I started this as a for-profit business, right? If I launched this as a for-profit, I would be the owner. I might get an LLC and then have some shareholders, right? And we would all vote. Still, there's still voting, right? There's still board meetings, but they're kind of a vote between those specific shareholders. and anything can still happen, right? Like it's really just coming to an agreement. What's different about a DAO is essentially any participant can become a shareholder, right? And the way you do this is by, typically it's like by purchasing a token. So you have this company, and just like a stock, you would release it. But this token has the ability to vote. And what we do with Chicano DAO is essentially we've created a similar structure, except our goal here is to onboard Latino artists, Latino creatives, and anyone really, right? Everybody and their mamas. Our doors are is open to anybody who's interested, but our goal is to onboard a lot of Latinos into Web3 and teach them essentially how these things operate. And so in that, some of these programs take funding. But the awesome and scary part, right, about a DAO is that as this thing takes off, right, and as it gains traction, our vote, even as founders, is actually weighted the same way a new member would come in. And so, in a traditional corporate structure, it would be like, hey, I'm the owner, so what I say goes, right? And sure, my board is going to influence what I decide, right? And I have to act in the interest of shareholders, right? You don't, that it's illegal to do that, right? The SEC would be on you. But in this context, it's like, hey, we all vote, and what gets passed is where the money goes. And so we share a treasury. Chicano DAO has a treasury, and it's public. Anybody can see the transactions of that treasury. And in order for any money to be moved, right, to fund a project, to help an artist, um even if it's just for like a marketing thing, right, like it may not even be a program itself, but any which way that money needs to move has to actually be done through a proposal and then a voting uh round. And so that's essentially the concept of a DAO.
All right. And Santos, how did Chicano DAO come to be? What was the linchpin? What sparked this, I guess,
Absolutely.
this partnership between the two to get it going?
Well, we I'm a Chicano, and Steven is a Chicano, and we have very similar backgrounds. Funny enough, we both grew up in Southeast LA. Him in Southgate, I'm Huntington Park. Uh, he has a background in Aztec Mexica dance from his family. I'm very connected to my Wirrárica, Huichol side, and Sweat Lodge, and uh, a lot of native medicine. And so I'm pretty in tune with my Chicano and Native American side. And so when I went into and I became interested in NFTs, I noticed there were zero Chicano artists on these platforms. If you go on OpenSea, go on Nifty Gateway, go on any of these and try to find me, some Chicano artists, and you're gonna have a hard time. It's a little bit better today. Today I did a little search and I did find a few projects, which makes me happy. But what I feel is that our community, our gente, has beautiful art. Oh, in Web 2, especially like on Instagram, I've always reshared people's artists and their art and their collections freely. I always repost it, give them credit. And I always enjoyed that part about Instagram, is that if I saw somebody with talent, I would always try and reshare it so that people would see it, and they would reshare it, and all of a sudden the person had a little bit of traction. So I'm hoping that these artists can benefit from the early knowledge that Steven and I have, to be able to hop on and start selling their art for two reasons. Because I want to be able to collect Chicano art and I can't find any, and because I want to see them shine as well. And so my personal vision with Chicano art is I want to be a collector of Chicano art, a promoter of Chicano art. I want to see Chicanos thrive, because I think we're extremely creative people. And the reason for a DAO is because um, it's a very beautiful structure. It's a very selfless structure if you think about it the way Steven said. Like, we're gonna found it, but we're not gonna be able to control what happens with it. If you get 20, 30 Chicanos in there and they all have different ideas, it's going to become whatever the community wants it to be. So it's a very new way of thinking. Like, you have to have a very Zen-like approach to it, because you might have a certain vision for it. But if the community says, hey, we want to go in this way, you have to let go and say, well, I created it for them. If that's what they want to do with it, then I have to be okay. And Steven helped me understand that that's what a DAO was for. And once he helped me understand, I said, okay, I'm down with that. I'm down with creating it because it doesn't exist, period.
Yeah.
So that's what Steven and we agreed on it. And he's a really righteous guy from this generation, from the Web3 generation. I'm from like the Web1, Web2 generation, and he helped onboard me. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, wow, if you helped onboard an old guy like me who was kind of stuck in like machismo and like, Chicanismo and stuff, well, maybe we can bring it into the community and help this new generation as they start learning about NFTs. By the time they arrive into this Web3, they already have some people that got their back and say, hey, you know what? Let me connect you to some marketplaces, to some buyers, to some way. And of course, yeah, we'll benefit in the process because we're making investments and we're making moves too. But at least they'll know that their gente is there, because when I showed up, it was like, where are my people? I was
Yeah.
like, where are the brown people at? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I didn't find any. And little by little, I'll tell you, Abelardo, there's last Saturday, for instance, Hola Metaverso happened. Shout out to Hola Metaverso, which was the first time that brown people from like different Latin cultures and Latin NFT projects, they all got together in LA to talk about Web3. So it's happening now, and it's bigger than Chicanos. But the reason that we started off as Chicanos is because we got to start somewhere, and we're starting in our own backyard, so to
Yeah.
speak.
Well, I'm looking at Hola Metaverso. I'm going to share screen here. It took place last Saturday, April 30th,
Absolutely.
at Avenida Studios. Avenida, of course, Fanny Grande, and her husband. It's a movie studio and much more.
Yep.
So,
That's right.
how
And
many
shout
people?
out to Ozzy. He's a Chicano, and he was the brains behind this.
Yep.
I forget his last name, but his name is Ozzy, and he set this up, and we're super proud of him.
All right. Wow, a lot of sponsors, a lot of supporters here. And so you both attend? Was it live or was it online?
Yeah, so it was actually both, right? So it was just a big panel discussion, a
Uh-huh.
bunch of beautiful brown faces in the room talking about Web3, and we were both
It's
there.
available still, right, Steven? It's available.
Yeah.
Like people
So
can actually see the panels.
yeah, we had it live stream on Facebook, Instagram, I believe YouTube as well. Um, if it is not up currently, I do believe like YouTube saves it. But if it's not up, I've already been in conversation with Ozzy about keeping it up. Just giving people access to all those discussions. I did sound there, which was really fun. So, um, I definitely have at least the sound section, and we can definitely get that out to the audience if it's not already out. But
All right.
big shout out to Ozzy for putting that on because it was quite a feat,
All
and
right.
they're not easy, you know.
Yeah, I'm sure it's not. Now, how
They,
can
they did a they did a great job for sure. I was there physically myself, and I attended as a guest. And it was just the energy, and these are people from New York, from Miami, from Dominican Republic, from LA, from all over the place, really gathering together with the same mission that we have with Chicano DAO. Funny enough, there's other people that are doing the same thing in Latinoverse, um, the Paisano DAO. There's a bunch of other ones that want to promote the same vision of ancient warriors. There's a handful right now, and so it's pretty exciting right now to get involved.
okay? So, how can people get involved with Chicano DAO?
The easiest way I would say is connect on Twitter. Most of the crypto world, right, the Web3 world lives on Twitter, Twitter and Instagram. You can find us mostly on Twitter. It is
Yeah,
Chicano
mostly
DAO,
Twitter
and
for sure.
yeah, we have Chicano DAO NFT, right? Is that
Yeah, NFT Chicano. But if you look for Chicano DAO, you should
Yeah.
be able to find our Twitter page. What Steven says is 100% right, and I'm gonna, he told me, hey, hop on Twitter, and same thing again. I was not on Twitter. I had a Twitter account for 10 years that I just hardly ever used because uh, you know, I used social media mainly to promote shows. That was like my main thing. I was not excited to be, on social media so much, but when he explained to me, okay, a lot of these conversations about NFTs and Web3 are happening on Twitter, it's 100% true. There's these things called Twitter Spaces that they're like almost like podcasts where you can hop in and ask questions.
Right.
So if you've ever been on these, Abelardo, like these are great to have conversations about this stuff, and they're constantly going on. If you go right now on Twitter and you look up NFTs, you're gonna find spaces. And the beautiful thing that I discovered, within the last couple months was that there are a lot of Spanish NFT spaces. They're smaller, but they're happening, and that's where we connected with a lot of our raza that are doing projects. Like I said, most of the raza that's doing projects right now are in Mexico. They're actually Mexican artists. There are a lot of Latinos that are doing it, but still Chicanos were very much, just getting started.
Okay.
Just to make the distinction.
Sure, and just to kind of circle back, when you talk about art on NFT art, it's not just visual art. It could be video art. It could be words, text. It could be stories. It could be videos. So all those can be converted to NFTs as non-fungible tokens that in turn can be purchased with cryptocurrency through blockchain technology.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Nailed it. Yep.
All right. Woo!
He's a pro already. Let's go.
You can actually, some people are actually even selling physical property, like real estate.
Wow.
Or yeah, it's funny, but there's some people that are selling homes as NFTs, just building in the contract into that.
Incredible. All right. Well, Santos, thank you so much. Steven, I know that there's a lot more to learn about this whole Web3.
Thank you.
And especially within the Chicano Latino community. Thank you for what you're doing in really spreading the knowledge and getting people involved. I know I'm gonna think long and hard of how I could get involved, because this is something that interests me. I was involved with the Web 1, with Web 2, and now I'm still I still curious and like to try different things. So I think
Abelardo, you're gonna do great in Web3. Let me tell you, because you're well spoken, you're entertaining, and the thing to do is say this would be a recommendation. On our Chicano DAO recommendation to you is to start going into the Twitter Spaces and just introduce yourself. Let them know who you are, and little by little, before you know it, you're actually going to be a host of Twitter Spaces and have these interviews. Invite artists to come and tell you about their projects, and merge the two things that you're doing right now, like say the Zoom meetings and stuff, with some of the spaces. You're going to gather so much knowledge, and then it's all about community building, really, within these spaces.
Fantastic, and that's so important. That's what La Plaza de Cultura y Art. Of course, we're a museum, but more than that, we're a community center, physical, virtual, and now jumping into Web3. So thank you so much to the both of you for joining us tonight. Thanks to those of you out there that joined us on Zoom and on Facebook. We are recording this. We have recorded this. We'll be posting it on our YouTube site. It'll live on our website, lapca.org. Our YouTube is at La Plaza LA. Our Facebook is at La Plaza LA as well. I've posted there the Chicano DAO's Twitter. Hola Metaverso. We got resources for you, and if and you could, through any of those means, you could connect. At least that last one, the Chicano DAO, connect with Santos and Steven and join the Twitter Spaces. That's what I'm gonna do.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Now, just to let people know what's going on this week, this is our Wednesday En Casa session. We're not gonna. We usually have Fridays on En Casa. Gonna take Friday off. Tomorrow, though, at La Plaza LA in the physical space, we're gonna have Julissa Arce, a writer, and Reina Grande. They're both gonna present their brand new books. There at La Plaza, they're gonna have a plática with hosted by Yarel Ramos from Univision. It's free of charge at 7 o'clock. There at 501 North Main Street. Find some place to park. Come on down. You're gonna be able to enjoy the spoken words of these two incredible young ladies. Next week, we have the weekend off, but next week on Monday, Wendy Centeno, a cooking demonstration where she's going to teach us to make what is it? Sopitos colimenses. I hear they're delicious, but she'll be doing that. On Wednesday at 7, Rhythm Tribe. It's a band that's been around for a while. They're re-emerging, so that we're going to have a conversation plus a couple songs that they're going to play. Friday, we have Dan Guerrero with Carmelita Tropicana, a performance artist from out of the 90s, 2000s. Will be with Dan Guerrero. And then also at the same time at La Plaza at 6 o'clock, doors open for our first summer salsa concert with Ricardo Lemvo and Máquina Loca. You can't miss it. We have a dance floor, drinks, food for sale, listen to the music, do a little dancing, enjoy the sounds of our community. All right, so with eso, gracias a todos for joining us. Thank you, Santos, again. Any last thoughts, Santos or Steven?
No, just a big thank you. Thank you for having us. We appreciate you. And
Thank you so much. And absolutely. And we just thank you for the work that you're doing, Abelardo. No te rajas. You stay on here for the people, and with the community is better for it.
Well, thank you.
Amor y paz.
All right. Gracias a todos. Thanks to all of you. We'll see you on our next En Casa or there at La Plaza de Cultura y Artes. Hasta la próxima. Nos vemos pronto. Bye-bye.